There's no employment. So you'd just stay on and work in the mines and factories and send money home. And you'd come home for 2 weeks in December. The mines all shut down in factories. And meanwhile, all year long, you've been living in these what we call townships and ghettos, barrios, favelas, what country you're in. And meanwhile, you might have slept around in the townships to the ladies of the night. And then when you go back to your village to see your wife, who's been very faithful to you, plowing your cornfields, building your buildings, taking care of your kids, and you bring back HIV/AIDS, she can't say no to you. So now this virtuous woman who may be a Christian will be infected with HIV/AIDS because her husband working in the mines has brought that back with her. And so it's kind of a cycle. How do you break it? You can't just have a formula or read this book or throw cocktail drugs at them. And probably the hardest one we have to deal with, and you can go home and Google this if you want, you'll find all about it, but there's a superstition cure for AIDS. Now, if, say, a man is in the final stages of AIDS, not HIV, but AIDS, I assume that you might know the difference HIV and AIDS. AIDS is more advanced HIV. So if you're in the fourth stage of AIDS, that means you're going to be dying very soon. That there's a superstition that if you can have intercourse with a virgin, you can get rid of it. And he goes, well, what the heck? I'm going to die in a few weeks. Why not? But how do I know that she is a virgin? So what they do is they would rape a 10-month-old child, girl. And so they usually rape the little girl child to death, the girl baby. And then the mother comes screaming and brings the child to us, and they're kind of gutted out like a fish, and they're usually dead or maybe better off dead, I don't know. And how do you tell this guy, like, it's not true? Well, he has nothing to lose. So we're combating that. So part of our AIDS program isn't just throwing cocktail drugs at them and testing them. It's combating a lot of these cultural norms there. We cannot get antiretrovirals, we can't get ARVs from America because America costs too much. We get all our ARVs, antiretrovirals curtail the advancement of AIDS. And we don't have the fancy new ones that you guys have, but we have to get it from the Brazil pharmaceuticals, and it's a fraction of the price. And also, same thing with AZT. AZT is 100% effective for mother-to-child transmission. It eliminates that. So you can have full-blown AIDS and produce a healthy child with AZT. And we get that from India, the India pharmaceuticals. So AIDS is a real problem that, if a baby is raped to death, it doesn't make the front page of the paper because this is normal. So it's something that we have to live with. And we bury somewhere between 5 and 7 people a day of different ages. And I'd say most of it is Yeah, I'm going to take a wild guess. Uh, you know, 4 to 5 of them are AIDS related. Now, little babies, so getting off subject here, um, 1 out of 5 babies will never see childhood, and they'll die from dysentery, which you call diarrhea. Like your kids might play with Play-Doh, they play with their father's poop. And so when a little 5-month-old baby gets diarrhea, they'll die within 48 hours. Now, you might say, well, I'm not a nurse or a doctor, but we can say if you boil some water and add sugar and salt and you can feed it to the baby, you can keep the baby alive. Is a good chance. You can rehydrate the baby. There's a lot of first aid that you can do that's, just kind of grassroots. So anyway, that's about AIDS. We do AIDS awareness, which is some of the stuff I've talked to you about, AIDS testing, counseling if they do have AIDS, and then the treatment, which is the ARVs. And they have to be real committed before we can put them on a program. We make it hard for them. Like we might say, you have to be here at 4 o'clock in the morning on, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if they're willing to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're committed. And that shows us that we'll put them on a program. If not, we don't put them on a program. So we saw 68,000 last year alone. We're one of the largest hospitals. We right now are trying to give away the hospital. It's appraised at $21 million. We're giving it away for free. But if government or Doctors Without Borders or something like that, who wants it, Doctors Without Borders will, it's forbidden to share the gospel. You cannot share any of your religious beliefs, whether you're Jewish or Christian or whatever. And if the government takes over, they'll be doing abortions and other things in the hospital, that's not what we're built the hospital for. So anyway, that's a little bit about our AIDS program. But before I open up to you, I want to not give you the impression that we're a social welfare program, because this isn't the heart of what we're doing. Even though we want to help, our heart, we're there, we've committed our life to redeeming a lost people with their loving Creator through Christ. And that's what we're unapologetically evangelical. So anybody have any questions about HIV or AIDS that I might have said? Yeah, sir.
Maybe you won't want to answer this, but what roles do UN try to play in the HIV program, AIDS program, with the babies and stuff? Do they play any role at all, or they just kind of stay out of it, or they ignore it? The United Nations.
What role do the...
Does the United Nations...
Oh, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, UNICEF, World Health, none of that. Local government, South African government, American government, they do symposiums and conferences and research, but at grassroots level, we're still burying the dead. And you have to bury them fast because the bodies will bloat up in the hot weather, and it kind of stinks a lot. But unfortunately, we're not doing much. So we're trying to give away our hospital because we just can't do all of this. We can't, and it's not a matter of money. It's just energy, So we have a lot of programs going on. So Any other questions? Yes, sis.
Well, it's interesting to me. How do you go into a country that doesn't speak English? And I am assuming at the beginning you didn't speak their language. How do you go in and communicate and get the folks that live there to listen to you and to believe what you're saying?
Okay, how do we as foreigners go into a non-speaking country and be effective in sharing the message, whatever it is? Very simple, you learn the language. It's very simple to learn the language. Some people have a harder time than others, but saying, if I was to say, Antoni Leno, what is this? And you'd say Amanzi, water. So I go, okay, I've learned water, and I know if I want this again, I'd say rather than, I would just say Amanzi or Wenzani, what is he doing? So you have certain words, key words that help you to learn other words, and then you start speaking in sentences. And I'm still learning. You're always learning the language. I can speak Basotho, Swana, Swazi, Zulu, and Xhosa. But I'm not very good at it. I'm always learning. I'll be preaching, and there's just so many words I don't know that they know. And then there's idioms too, like you have idioms. But learning the language is quite easy, and we make it fun. And we have fun learning the language. And it's, to tell them that I don't understand, or say, Ndisi teta yesi Xhosa. I'm speaking little Xhosa. Please help me. So you just tell them that. But learning the language now in the world, I'm going to speak macro, is most countries in the world are learning English, or they're moving towards learning English. So, and my brother from Haiti, yes, probably Haitians now, rather than speaking Creole, so many more of them are speaking English than ever before. Would you say that? Yeah. So the whole language thing is off. But if you really want to identify with the people and get into conversations, especially when you get into the unreached areas, knowing the languages, we say it's very important. If you were to come work with us, the first 6 months we'd ask you to do 3 things. One is to learn the language, and there's ways of doing it. There's different ways of doing it. There's learn the language, build relationship with non-English speaking people. Stay away from people that speak English, because you'll never learn the language. You'll always revert back to English. But if you're immersed in a village that everybody speaks Creole or the local language, you'll learn it very fast. So learning the language, building relationship, and learning the culture. Because there's things in your culture that are normal to you that would turn people off in another culture. So language acquisition is one of them. And some missionaries actually hire people to teach them language every day. They come into their family and say, we're going to learn this sentence. And they'll go down the street, and their homework is to say it 20 times. Like, I don't know, good morning, how are you? And so they just say it 20 times. And so you learn, there's different ways to do it. So, but if you don't learn the language, you'll always be handicapped because they'll be speaking things. Yeah, I could tell you so many stories that where you overhear them talking. And they don't, because most white people don't learn black languages in Africa. And so I know I was in this one little shop that got a sandwich or something, and these two guys, it's late at night, and these two guys are talking about robbing me and stealing my pickup truck. When I left at the end of the street, they're going to set up and they're going to put rocks on the street where I have to stop, and then they're going to steal my pickup truck. So they're telling me their whole plan. They don't realize I know it, you know. So, but learning the language is, and it's fun too. And there are different cliques in our language. Zulu has no cliques. The Khoi, San, and Hottentots have much more cliques in Namibia. So, but anyway, language acquisition is important, but would very strongly discourage people from speaking English as little as you can when you're there, because you want to adapt to their culture. You know, if somebody came out here and they just spoke Ukrainian and they refused to learn English, you know, chances are they wouldn't have much relationship here. So, sir.
How is it that other mission organizations have avoided the trans-sky? Is that still the case? And is that relatively unique in Africa? Because my impression is that mission organizations have been going to Africa for, hundreds of years. So it's sort of a revelation that there's a whole area that has not been reached by, a mission organization. To what do you attribute that? I guess that would be
I could be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, that missionaries now want to go where it's reached, where they can have Starbucks, where they can have electricity, where they can have fellowship, they can, go to McDonald's. And so they don't want to go into the unreached areas. But are you asking why they have not been reached?
just why mission organizations have avoided it, and you partially answered that, or completely answered it. And is that unique, or are there other unreached areas similar to that in Africa that you know?
I would say the ones that are most comfortable to your lifestyle. And I don't know other mission fields, but I know I personally would have trouble going to a Muslim country where you get off the plane and they're calling your wife a whore and they're throwing poop in your face. And I'm supposed to say, Jesus loves you and I love you. I would struggle with that. I'd rather go to a place that's more amenable to the gospel. Another thing that I would have an aversion to is humidity. Like where I've been to Haiti, oh my gosh, and Cuba, and places like that. You sweat in the shower in Haiti. Some people don't mind it. And personally, I have an aversion. But I think people want to go where it's already been done. They have fellowship, and it's easier. Pioneering is hard, and same way like being in Nevada here, you got the pioneers and you got the settlers. And there's some people who are pioneers, like myself. My wife, she's here, she goes, Kelly is never satisfied. He always wants to reach one more village. He wants to do more and develop. And while she is very satisfied with what we got, and that's why I'm not a pastor. I couldn't be doing what Jay is doing, and week after week being here. It's not me. I would have to be doing something else. And I don't know, this is a little beyond what you're asking maybe, but personally, I tend to see the half-empty glass. My wife sees the half-full glass. So we'll be showing the Jesus film in Osa, and there'll be 2,000 people in attendance. And at the end, we turn the lights on, we share an invite, and 500 people will come to Christ that night. And my wife that night should be rejoicing and say, yes, 500 people came to Christ, and should be so excited. Well, I'm devastated at the 1,500 that left without Christ. That's all I see. So it's just the way we're wired. So you wouldn't want to be married to me. That's a good question. Did I answer your question? Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Sir.
I'm just curious, you talked about the deaths from HIV, but what about starvation? Is that a problem there as well or not?
No, we don't have a people don't die of starvation because they grow corn. For hundreds of years, they know how to live, so they have subsistence farming. And their meal, what they eat there is white corn, like you'd call it hominy. And they'd have grits in the morning and boiled white corn, maybe a few little beans in it in the evening. And that's all they have every day. So the women, it's very prestigious for your wife to be big and fat. If your wife is slender and all that, that's an embarrassment, because you can't feed your wife enough to be big and fat. So it's prestigious to be big and fat. But let's say your wife in Reno here, she makes spaghetti for you every night this month. And at the end of the month, you say, honey, your spaghetti's wonderful, but can't we have something else? Now, they're the opposite. They have white corn every day, and if you try to introduce a new food, they go, why can't we have white corn? They don't want variety. So Americans think, well, I want a different meal every night. They don't. That's not their culture. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to deal with the occult.
Cults?
Evil spirits.
Oh, yes. The occult, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and, well, I'm going to be leaving in 24 hours, so I can say what I want, huh? But whether you believe in it or not, it's present. And in 40 years, we have been in 4 to 5, what I could say, actual spiritual battles that will last anywhere from 1.5 years to 2.5 years. And they're terrible. And the witch doctors have power, most of them. I wouldn't say many of them, at least. And there's some that don't, some that are faking it. Same way there's Christian pastors who are very anointed, and some that are faking it. And so this is something I don't know much about, but I have experience that I've seen the miraculous and things that can't be explained by science or human understanding, but through prayer, we've just seen things happen that And once, it's only happened once, that I was up in a place called Nadu, and all the paramount chief was there, and all the chiefs were there, and I saw a witch doctor perform a miracle. So they do have power, but greater is he that's in you. It's interesting that when witch doctors come to Christ, and we tell them to come on into our meeting, they might dance outside for a while and do other cantations, but we ask them to come in, and I'd say, I can easily say, most witch doctors will come to Christ through a demonstration that there's greater power in your Christ, in what you're saying, than in what they believe. And they come to Christ because of a demonstration of power, not because of convincing words and all the other stuff. So, yeah. Did I answer your question? Thank you.
Okay. So how dangerous are the wild animals out there? Do you guys do you have any weapons to defend, or do you just have the things you can do to stay safe?
I have no defensive weapons, and I've never had a defensive weapon out there. I do hunt. A kudu will feed 4 villages. Hartebeest will feed 3. A springbuck will feed a village. So we do hunt. And yeah, I have come across bad animals, everything from lions to hyenas to wild wolves and so on. But it's rare because the local people usually kill them off for food. So, you don't see, that's not an issue. What maybe might be a better question is snakes. And now you got a 1-minute snake, a 3-minute snake. Depends how long it's going to take you to die. But we got, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of these snakes, puff adders, boom slungs, mambas, green mambas, black mambas, Cape spitting cobras, and all these snakes. But most snakes, they can hear you walking a mile away. And so they don't want trouble, The only one that I know of is the puff adder. And they don't, get out of your way. And matter of fact, and they're able to bite backwards. They're the only snake that bites backwards. But yeah, there are snakes. Have I ever known anybody to die of a snake? No. Have I ever known anybody to be bitten by a snake? No. So they are there. They make great stories, but in reality, they're more afraid of you than you of them. So yeah.
I think along those lines, it's pretty much like it is here. In other words, if somebody was from Africa and their question of you was, well, what do you do to protect yourself against grizzly bears and cougars? And you say, I've lived here all my life, I've never seen one. I've never heard of anyone who's seen one. It's the same thing. It's just like it is here. We have certain animals that are dangerous, but nobody ever sees them. I mean, everybody thinks that Africa's a zoo. I was guilty. I went there, and I did get to go to a wild animal preserve, and I saw a bunch of animals. But out in the real world, the only animals I ever saw were cattle, goats, sheep, maybe. I mean, horses. So it's really very much like here. It's not a zoo.
Yeah, I think, let me get to you in a second. But as far as danger goes, animals wouldn't be your biggest danger. There might be some other things I might talk to you about, whether it's eating bad food or, baptizing, get Balhasia from baptizing in certain waters, or baptizing where there's cow turds floating around or human turds floating around, and you're baptizing people, and how that might be more dangerous than animals. But what I'm often asked is it dangerous being a missionary? And I would say you don't join the army because it's safe. You join the army because there's a task to be done and a war to be won. So I'd be lying to you if there's no risk factors. I heard that this is 2025, that the safest place on earth to be right now, this year, the safest place to be is in the center of God's will. And so wherever that is, we've had some trials, but we've had some joys and blessings too. But yeah, I won't deny the fact there's risks, but there's risks if you, go to Burning Man, I guess. So I don't know. But yeah, we've suffered. I could go into all the negative things, but we've been really blessed, unexpectedly blessed. So, did I answer your question?
What is your source of clean water?
Well, at our mission stations, we have wells. We collect water off the roof. But I don't know if we have clean water or not. I haven't drank water in 30 years. I don't drink water. Jay knows that. He's never seen me drink water. I drink Snapple, iced tea, coffee, but I don't drink water. You know what fish do in water? Oh my gosh. If you did, you...
When we were there, they had bottled water like that. And we all
Yeah.
had a supply of bottled water. And you can go to the store in Willoughby and you can buy cases of bottled water.
Yeah, we can't have that now. And also things are boiled. So when he has tea, it's boiled water. Now, if they put like orange flavoring with unboiled water, I'd say, Jay, do not drink that water, because I don't know what it is. So, yeah. It's...
Pictures. So many of the people have like chalky faces. What does that signify?
When they have the white on their faces, those are Mary Kay saleswomen. No. No, it's it's a good question to ask. It's a hard one to answer, and I often use that question because you're going to get different answers. Some people will say, the lighter complexion you are as a black woman, that means you don't work in the fields, and so it's a sunscreen. Some would say we don't have much to make us look beautiful, but culturally we've adapted this like makeup. It's a little more extreme than what you Americans would say. Some would say it's witchcraft. The witch doctor has said you need to put certain things on your face, or a monkey's tail around your neck, or different things like that. And some people say it's, I can't think of the word, homeopathic remedies. Am I saying that word right? So there's different reasons. And then boys at a certain time in their life would have to have white on their face. It's called an ingeti. And, but anyway, don't want to go down that road. So anyways, yeah, different. Good question. Do you have a question? Oh, there we got two. there's no typical day for me. Now, if you're the dean of our Bible college, obviously you'd be there for devotions, make sure the teachers are there, and collect papers, and make sure the kitchen manager's doing the job, and going and get supplies, and so on. He'd have a certain task. But am so spread out that I might be in with the U.S. ambassador for 3 days, and then I might be in a tribal village with a chief for a day or two. So it could be anything from putting a roof on a house to just counseling people. So I don't have a typical day. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just gonna ask you, what do you guys eat down there? Do you eat what the locals eat, or do you guys have your own? Do you do your own? Do you eat more closer to?
I'm sorry.
Eat like food. What do you guys? What do you do for meal? I mean, you told us what the locals typically eat. You guys,
What do we eat? Oh, now the native people I already said have white corn, but my wife would make chicken and potatoes tonight, and spaghetti tomorrow night, and stew on Thursday, and we eat normal, I guess, as normal as we would in America. But we have a store in our village that sells things now, food. Like he says, you can get bottled water. We never could get that before. But to go to a grocery store, it's 5 hours, 5 to 6 hour round trip to go to a grocery store. And so you can't just sit there and say, hey, I'm going to run to the store and get some ketchup. You don't do that. So we're pretty remote. We have people that would come out. We don't have a lot of visitors, by the way, that would say, oh, we want to take you and Kathy out to dinner. Well, there's no restaurants. We do have a KFC nearby, so puts us on the map. And well, why don't you guys stay at a hotel, or we want to burden you. We'll stay at a hotel. Well, there's no hotels, so we're it's not like a typical little town. We're just grateful if we have electricity. Yeah, that would be a big thing for us. Yeah. Anybody else? Sir.
So take those comments and tell us what would be a minimum time one of us could come over and, from your standpoint, do something beneficial for the organization. What would you say your 2 or 3 greatest needs are right now in terms of the things that one of us could come over and do?
Okay, let me give you a full answer to that. I'm from Montana, and in Montana we have a working ranch and we have a dude ranch. Totally different. A working ranch, everybody's working double time. A dude ranch, they take care of people and have guests and they feed them and whatever. Our mission is a working ranch. So if Safumba over here is doing 5 people's jobs to say stop, and I want you to translate for Jay, take Jay around, cook him a meal, and transport him and all this, he couldn't do all of his job. So we're so busy doing the work there that we don't entertain guests. So we typically don't. That's not our gifting. Some ministries have that gifting way better than us. They do a very good job, and we'd refer them to them. Now, there's an exception to that. There's a couple of exceptions. One is if somebody has a special skill, like Jay being a Bible teacher, for him to come and teach at our Bible college, what an honor. I mean, they're still talking about his teachings. You know, to have somebody like that travel halfway around the world. But if he just wanted to come and take pictures and get a T-shirt, would just say, hey, you know, stay home. Another thing is, if somebody has been relating to us and communicating and supporting and praying for us, the Bible talks about a man who had a vineyard afar off. And finally, after a time, he sent somebody to check him out, see how the husbandman of the vineyard is taking care of his investment. And I think it behooves the church to maybe send somebody out to check up on us. Are we really doing it? And that's where I think it was a really advantageous to the church to have Jay come out. He blessed us, but I think he affirmed the church. So, but I was contacted 10 days ago from Grand Junction about a Foursquare church that wants to send a team out. They've heard about all that God's doing in revival and this and that. And I go, who are you? You know, I don't even know who you are. And, you know, we're not a tourist stop. You know, we actually work. So we had to say, you know, I can give you different other ministries that do that, but that's not what we're at. I tried to be polite, but so we don't have a lot of guests. That's not our gifting. That might be changing soon because we're changing leadership structure. And you asked the second part of the question. What would they do?
What are your needs right now?
Oh, that's it. Needs. Overall needs, 3 out of our 4 biggest needs are prayer, and not casual, but I'm talking about serious prayer. Prayer, relationship, and long-term workers. Those are 3 of our 4 biggest needs. Now, for somebody to come out, it depends what their gifting is and what we're doing. Let's say we're going to build a whole new kitchen for our Bible college. Well, somebody who knows construction. Matter of fact, we're thinking about doing this next June, next year. But to do that, all of a sudden, I'll use your church as an example if I could. Say you can wrangle up 12 guys that could, you know, help build a new kitchen. And you could even bring some of the ladies that would cook for your team, and you know, and maybe do some painting and other things that aren't labor intensive. And so, but then we'd need a guy that would have to come out 2 to 3 weeks ahead to make sure there's cement, sand, and all the shovels and everything you have there. Because when all of a sudden you show up, they go, oh, we won't get sand for another month, or cement. So it's kind of like, well, this is pretty poor planning. So you need someone to come out ahead of time. They might have to rent a pickup truck and try to give you somebody to show you where to buy supplies. And so you'd kind of be like a Joshua, Caleb, spying out the land so you can enter in. So it can be done. We haven't historically done that, had many visitors. And I think it's more not my gifting. Yeah.
So define long-term.
Long-term is buying a one-way ticket. Yeah. So 3 months is, it's a visit. 1 year, they call it the kiss of death. Because by the time you get there, you're not going to learn the language. You're not going to build relationship. You're not going to be effective in a ministry. You're not going to buy a refrigerator. You're not even going to get a vehicle probably. And then you're going to, when you land, you're going to say, where are we going to stay? Didn't you build us a house? So 1 year, but if you're committed for 5 years, yes, you will build a house. Yes, you will learn the language. Yes, you will have a vehicle. Yes, you will be effective in some sort of ministry. So I would say 3 to 5 year minimum would be long term. So I'm not trying to, but we're talking about people who are talking about committing their life and have a call to missions, who are not just want to get the experience. So, did I answer your question? I hope I didn't offend you in that. Let me go back here.
Yes, when you go into a new village, how do you set up an opportunity to spread the gospel? What techniques or how do you do it?
Okay, how do we penetrate an unreached village? It's what we do is we now, after decades, they're inviting us. They've waited like years for us to come. So when we come, they've slaughtered an oxen. They've prepared things. They've prepared a place for me and my leaders to sleep. And they do it very differently than you do it. And with food, and have meetings, and they announce it. So they invite us. But we could go in uninvited and still be effective. There's a newsletter back there on the table called Ubuntu, and it explains the culture that when you go, even if they don't know you, they will receive you and host you. They'll honor you, and so it's part of their culture. They're not hostile to you. So and then you, as a courtesy, you would talk to the leader, the headman or tribal chief, and say, "Is it okay?" And there's a way of communicating, a little different from America, but anyway, you communicate and to make sure it's not offensive. During COVID, we changed our whole style of evangelism to funerals, because we're doing 15 funerals a day. So we, how do you share the gospel and people get saved, and what do you do with them when they get saved at funerals? There might be 1,000 people at a funeral, so it's very different. So the days of going in cold turkey and uninvited, that maybe happened the first 2-3 years, but now we're in demand. We're the only missionaries among 9 million people, so you're stuck with us. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes.
You talked about Bibles earlier and not having enough. Is that a physical, like printing in the various native languages? Is it strictly financial? What could we as a church do to perhaps help fill that need? Is that okay?
Church should just do whatever the Lord's telling you, but we can get Bibles in the Osa language. That's what we do. We use Osa Bibles, and we buy them by the pallet load. There's 1,000 on a pallet, and we co-op our orders with the Baptist Foreign Mission, who we have a very good relationship with. They almost always get Zulu Bibles, and we get Osa, but a pallet of 1,000 Bibles, New and Old Testament hardcover. 1,000 Bibles runs $5,500, depending on the foreign exchange rate. But if we buy 2 or more, they reduce it down to 5,000. So we save $500,000 if we co-op the order, which we do. And and then we get them and we distribute them as needed. But we've been out of them for a while. For the last couple of years, we've had a good supply, but we just running on hard times, I guess. But we can get it. They're printed in South Africa, so we can get it there. Some people say, well, why don't you call it the Gideons? Well, the Gideons, as you might know, will not even give the church here Bibles. They'll come here, and only Gideons can give away the Bibles, but Jay can't give away a Gideon Bible. It's just part of the way they run. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just their MO. So they won't give us OSA Bibles. So it's around, we can get it for around $5,000 a pallet. And we assuming the Baptists are going to order too. Yeah. Good. Patty.
So it seemed like years ago, we had an idea, like, if we give you this money and you can do this with it, and your answer was kind of, well, if children are starving, we're not going to take that money and go buy supplies. You know, you wanted the freedom to be able to take any gifts that you got to use where you were feeling the Lord was calling you to minister, right? So has it changed? Or if say a group in the church says, well, we want to buy Bibles, we're going to go out and raise $10,000 for Bibles, and then you say, well, we need that $10,000 really bad because the Bible school is collapsing and we need a new roof. I mean, you don't like to be, I don't want to say it, told what to do.
Say it like it is. Well, let me put it like this: we have great needs, and then we have not so important needs. For us to need Bibles while you're trying to get playground equipment, what's more important, and we'd have to determine that. But even if the church here, let's say somebody who has tons of money comes to Jay and the leadership and says, we want to give $10,000 to have a stained glass of a sinking ship with a Christ on a mast or something like that, and I'll give this money as long as you do the stained glass of this big picture, stained glass picture. Well, you as a church say, I don't know if we really want that. Thank you for your willingness to do that, but that's not what we're into. Or it might be, but if they were the same person was to say, to the leadership, I'd like to give this $10,000 to help you develop your youth ministry, unspecific or whatever, you'd probably say thank you and use it for your youth ministry. But ethically, we can't take designated funds and not use it for what we say we're going to use it. We won't do that. We'd rather say, we have done that at times, very rare, but we've said, we can't. I know we had somebody wanting to do World Vision type of thing, where you have a picture of a kid that you can put on a refrigerator. Well, the kids grow up, kids come, kids go, the kids die. And for them to do that and write it in English and get it mailed over, kind of like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't promise that we could do that. And so this person insisted that we do these refrigerator pictures, and we just didn't have the manpower, or that wasn't what we're supposed to do, and we said no. And they went somewhere else, but but we tried to walk in integrity and ethics, and we do what we say we're going to do, and we can't. We just say we can't. Yeah. Did I answer that, Patty, without being arrogant? Anybody? Yes. Anybody else? Now, I have a question for you. Now, before I ask the question, I'm not asking for a commitment, but how many here would pray about coming to Africa in some form or fashion, short or long term? I'm not saying you will. I'm not saying that, you raise your hand, I have to do it, but that you would consider that, prayerfully consider that. Anybody? Jay, 1, 2. Okay. Good. That's honest. Good. And I think the only thing that hasn't been asked that I think merits a response to the unasked question is, what about our kids? How has being raised on the mission field affected our kids? And that was probably our biggest concern, that my son was not play football and my daughters wouldn't learn ballet or piano, and we wouldn't have turkey on Thanksgiving or whatever it is, or have money for them to go to college because we went to college, or, and I thought our kids are either going to hate God and hate us for taking them to the end of the earth. And we didn't know. We had all these, how is it going to affect them? Is it going to be adverse, or is it going to be positive? And, but I think when you commit to God's way in your life, that He'll take care of the small things. He'll take care of your children. He'll take care of what you're lacking. And all of our kids had full scholarships to go to college. My oldest son got paid $50,000 every year that he would go to college, besides full scholarship to an Ivy League college. And so our kids all got to go to college, but they lived a Robinson Crusoe lifestyle that was God-centered. They didn't have to hear about Noah and his twosies when they were preaching since they're 6 years old. They've seen people saved and healed and seen God in reality. And now they're all walking with the Lord. And that's a great reward. And most of us have to spend 40 hours a week at a job. Well, we'd do homeschool, and then after lunch, we'd all go out as a family to a village, or they would go with us. So we work as a family. And so not only were they spiritually founded, but the Lord took care of their education and other things that we thought that they would, feel left out or second-class citizen. So, and just to cap it off, it's probably one of the rewards that we got is not just someday hearing, "Well done, good and faithful servant," but hearing our kids brag about their parents and our grandkids brag. Now, I'm a tax attorney, CPA by training, but how many kids are going to say, "My dad is the best at cheating on taxes than anybody I know. I mean, he is so good." No, the kids aren't going to brag about you as a truck driver, insurance salesman, accountant, whatever it is. but to hear our kids brag about how their parents gave half their life to help people who are hurting, and it's rewarding that I don't know if I would have gotten if I would have stayed in my CPA office and stayed in my little American dream lifestyle. So that's a real reward, you know. And you talk about the blessings. I could talk about all the trials and bad things that happen, but that's one of the blessings when you hear your grandkids and kids say about that. Good. Any last questions or comments? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's sort of a silly question. What part of your mouth produces the clicking sound? Is it from your throat,
It's your tongue.
It-
tongue on the top?
there's different clicks. Like there's a Q, which is the roof of your mouth, like it's a, and then there's like ulsa, it's like the sides of your tongue, like giddy up horse, like, you know, and then there's different clicks. So there's not just one click. It can change the meaning, but it's linked to letters, you know, like they don't have an X sound, like the letter X, they don't have that sound in their alphabet. They have a, you know, and a Q would be a, yeah, sir. Online classes for the language? They might, I don't know. I don't know. They have everything else. Yeah.
So I think it would be a good thing if we closed our time with Kelly by praying for him. And yeah, maybe you can bring your stool down and kind of down in the aisle here so we can surround you a little bit better. A few of you may want to come out and put hands on him. Some of you may want to put hands on him for other reasons, but you know, he's made us feel uncomfortable. You know, that's what the gospel does. It disturbs the comfortable and comforts the disturbed. But I'd like us to try something. If it doesn't work at all, I'll yell out stop. But I heard of in certain settings where people will pray out loud all at the same time. And that there's something Holy Spirit-ish that can happen. And it's no problem for God. He can hear every one of us, even if we're talking at the same time. We have trouble with it. But so a few of us, if we'd just put our hands on Kelly, and then I would just invite all of us to pray out loud for Kelly and his ministry, his people. I've known some of his people, and he's got some terrific folks that work with him. And some of them, probably most of them are gone now, but we assume the rest of them are pretty terrific too. But let's just pray however you feel God led. And you don't have to worry about being self-conscious because no one's going to hear you except God. So it's kind of like praying silently, which we do a lot of, except we're going to pray silently out loud, okay? So I would just encourage us all to gather around Kelly and let's just pray. Let's go. Heavenly Father, I pray that you would bless us. Lord, I pray that you have spoken well today as we have made some great gifts. Hopefully we will do them well. That you are helping to feel your warmth and your love toward him through this body of believers. Lord, that by the power of your Spirit and the faithfulness of your people, we begin to boost it and have wind in the sails. And we do that he's doing. And that he is certainly well done, my children. Lord, I also pray for us as a church that we heard his message, the message that comes through his life, as well as through his word. Serving you, knowing you, giving you all to you. And rest at the center of your church. And that's what this is. God's people said? Amen. Well, let's talk about